I'm having a wonderful conversation. We're going to be having a wonderful conversation about one of the most incredible performances I have heard in a long, long time, let alone the piece itself. We're going to talk about it. It's a transcription. I am speaking with violinist Vera Vaidman. She is in Tel Aviv, and we're speaking about her 2015 Romeo Records release. We're not quite sure whether it's a world premiere, but I've never heard it before. This is a transcription. Sit down and pay attention, everybody, because you're going to be blown away. There are two pieces on this wonderful, incredible CD, but the really big surprise for me was Noam Sivan's solo violin transcription of Liszt's Piano Sonata in B minor. Okay, is everybody out there hanging onto their seats? You say immediately, as I did, what? And then the truth is spoken by this incredible violinist in front of me. We're going to talk about it a lot. On that same CD, aside from a half hour of intense playing, that B minor sonata of Liszt's is non-stop, let alone the transcription. By the way, Noam Sivan's transcription is, you and I, Vera, spoke about it, genius. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Genius. It's also, without doubt, one of the hardest pieces for solo fiddle ever written. Apparently he wrote it for his girlfriend. I hope that's a good thing. But also on the CD is the B minor partita of Bach. So we are speaking with a Bach uh, a Bach persona, Vera Vaidman, and she took this incredible challenge to prepare and record Noam Sivan's solo violin transcription of Liszt's Piano Sonata in B minor. I couldn't believe my ears. As you have said, Vera, about some performances, series you're doing about the transcriptions for viola of the cello suites, you just have to kind of shift to a different place. You have to just understand it's a different thing. Let's start there. And what I want to talk about is your youth as a violin prodigy in the Soviet Union and as a Jew in the Soviet Union, and how was that at one of the great conservatories, the Tchaikovsky Conservatory in St. Petersburg, Leningrad at the time, studying with, hello, hang on everybody, because it's so apparent in your,
Was
pardon?
Moscow.
Moscow, you're right, exactly, thank you. It was the Moscow Tchaikovsky Conservatory. You were born in Leningrad, St. Petersburg,
Yes.
and in Moscow you also studied with David Oistrakh, and to me it sounds with every single note that you play. Tell us about that beginning as a young prodigy in Soviet Russia. How did it all go?
Well, it's nothing, I will tell nothing new that the Soviet Union had a very well working machine for, producing uh, people who could not only be great musicians and just to do very good progress on the instrument, but also win some competitions and to show everywhere that Soviet system is the best system in the world. So it was just like this. When you start as a small child, you know that you continue and you just inside that machine. But people around could be absolutely wonderful, and that's another thing which is, of course, made it for me and for all my colleagues great experience to notwithstanding problems with system and etc. Because when you are inside that great cage, you feel like one of the other animals, and you don't think about problems. You know that there is a problem, but you continue just your way, and that's how it is.
By the way, Vera is looking at her husband, Emmanuel Krasovsky, pianist
Yeah.
Krasovsky to make sure everything's okay. I'm glad he's there to approve everything you
Yeah,
say.
it is.
What a beautiful way, if you forgive the word beautiful way, but what an interesting way of describing living in a Soviet system, especially as a Jew, this cage. And I suppose all peoples may have felt that way about that system somewhere deep inside, that they were not able to quite maybe achieve what they wanted to. So you had an opportunity. The Soviet Union offered in 1973 a chance for Jews to immigrate to Israel. It was called, what is it, Aliyah, this
Aliyah
Aliyah,
in
Aliyah, thank you, this
Hebrew. Aliyah.
opportunity. And of course, it was a no-brainer, right? When the offer of freedom to immigrate to Israel was offered in '73. Or did you have hesitations? I mean, even being in the cage, you were in a familiar cage. You were in your homeland. Was there a hesitation at all, or did you say yes, thank you, I'm off?
No, no, of course. Also in my family, my father was quite kind of Zionist, in the Soviet Union as much as you could be one. So I grew up with, that feeling that it's we should be in our country, etc. And of course, it was a kind of uh, impulse which always was in my head, and only when it was possible we did it.
And you mentioned off camera that you were also afraid, and I do remember this was just a window that was opened for a brief period, and then the Soviet authorities shut that window down. So you took advantage when you could. It's a wonderful thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And you've been concertizing widely all over the place. This is called the freedom of living in the West, I think, and living in Israel. Uh, you may know that I'm in Santa Barbara, where our wonderful conductor Nir Cabaretti is conductor of the Santa Barbara Symphony. You may have seen his name. He's becoming even more successful in Israel these days. But speaking of engagements, you have just, and I want to make sure everybody understands, what absolutely amazes me is the power and energy of your playing. It is absolutely extraordinary. And this is part of why, and then there's maybe a subtext question I'm getting at here too, but you've just finished the second in a series of recitals. This was on March 15th, the second recital series at the Israel Conservatory in Tel Aviv. Tell us about this odyssey, this four recital odyssey of the works of Bach, what it all means to you, and how on earth, when are you going to slow down?
uh, well, it's also you work on unaccompanied works by Bach all your life, and there is some point when you want to see it all together. And by chance, already many years ago, I did in one evening all violin output. But it was on 21st of March, so it was Bach birthday concert because it's his birthday. And much later, when absolutely by chance I took viola, also gradually I started to dig into Bach cello suite, and of course it immediately give you even different outlook on the violin stuff also. So and now somehow when everything is already uh, inside your head, so you want uh, to try and to understand how it works all together.
Let's remind everybody, for example, that the Liszt is one continuous, nearly 30-minute performance, And just imagine, everyone, I'm kind of jumping back to the list of the Liszt transcription again, just in terms of just the huge amount of energy that's required. We've discussed already, this is one of the most difficult pieces I've ever heard for fiddle. Everything is there, every
So,
possible
yeah.
type, but also the genius of Noam in breaking down what would have been piano arpeggiations, you know, the piano, the 10 fingers all over the keyboard, and Noam somehow tells you that you have to do all of that on violin, and it turns out to be absolutely miraculous and stunning. And you mentioned, we discussed this a little earlier, even as you looked at, stop me if I'm not, quoting you properly, but as you, if I understand it, as you looked at the Bach cello suites and looked at preparing them for viola, it's kind of the same thing in that you have to just look at these pieces differently. And they are different. You know, the cello suites are different when they're played on viola. Likewise, the Liszt sonata,
Yes,
needless to say.
but you know that it's even not absolutely clear. There is also idea that Bach wrote it for a different instrument, not for cello, because there is no manuscript, and so many question marks. So it gives you much more freedom, of course, when you try to work and perform, etc.
And do you think Noam was out of his mind when he said, "Oh, I think I'll do the Liszt B minor sonata, the famous Liszt B minor sonata. I think I'll do that for violin." Part of me is still going, "What? Are you out of your mind?"
Yeah, it's completely crazy. It was my what I thought when I saw this music in New York in music store, because I just found it, and what? Of course, I bought it, and it was for some years in my library. Without, I didn't touch it. It was just there. And then one day, and I decided to look at it.
And history
And
has been made, let us say.
yes,
I don't believe there is another recording. We've questioned this, you and I, but I don't believe there's another recording. I'll do a look later. But the point is, this is a performance and a transcription that needs to be heard, needs to be understood, needs to be looked at very seriously by professional violinists, because it's a virtuoso masterpiece. It's a stunning event for the public to witness.
I think so too, because there is an uninterruption solo, incredibly virtuosic piece in the more than half an hour, and there is no other piece like this exactly. If no,
And as we mentioned a little earlier before recording, again, one has to get past previous mindset. I think it's what it's about. You know, we all think Liszt, B minor, piano sonata, and we're really forced. Noam really forces us to have a different look at this piece. It is still the B minor piano sonata, but
yeah,
but revealed in ways, as I mentioned to you. I swear I was hearing contemporary music there when some of these arpeggiated chords are broken down for fiddle to run
mm,
through them. How you do it, I have no idea. I'm going to have to find a video or something. But you hear these chords, and they are spectacularly fascinating and interesting. What's your takeaway
yeah,
yourself?
but of course, it immediately you think about Paganini and all that history. It goes back and it comes again, is because it Liszt uh, history of Liszt
Yes.
is going through Paganini,
That's very
because
interesting. Yes, I'd
yeah,
forgotten that. Yeah.
and then it's somehow uh, like if you think about that transcription, so it's like to pay that debt back, because
Yes.
it
And
started
How does it fall on the fingerboard? How does Noam was is a violist? I can't quite remember. Composer, violist, or Noam
What?
Sivan? Is he a musician?
Noam Sivan. He's a pianist.
Pianist.
He's a pianist, and he's a pianist composer. He is. Uh, I think he's quite a master of improvisation.
Yes, I
And
remember reading that. Yes, yeah. Well, I guess what I'm asking is, how dare he?
uh,
By the way, how dare he, a pianist, say, "Oh, I think I'll write this for fiddle," and then therefore, how does it fall for you as a violinist? But is it a big pain, or does it make sense
it's
from the beginning?
tremendous pain to find how to do it on violin. It's uh, you have to solve every
Problems.
every place like a mathematical reader or something like that. It's really I never did anything close to it.
So did you curse him as you tried to work out those fingerings?
No,
Of
no,
course not. Sorry. That was me. No, I'm sorry. Uh,
no. Even I was grateful to him, because when you try to do such a thing, you find completely new technical possibilities on violin, and what was actually also with Liszt and with Paganini, because they found completely new things on their respective instruments.
Can I ask you, just to be on the safe side, I think if I could ask you to move, and I'm not quite sure which way, a little bit, one way or the other, let's go, try one, yes, a little bit more that way. I'll tell you
Uh,
why, sometimes the imaging,
uh,
it looks, yeah, that's better. It looks fine until I get the tape, and you have to be almost right in the
you,
middle. There,
there-
perfect, perfetto. Bravo,
okay.
bravo. Just wanted to make sure, because it's so awful when I get past all of this and then I see that half your face is gone. Let's talk a little bit about this.
I did something
No, no,
like this. Yeah.
okay. Let's talk a little bit about the sound of your instrument. 1776 Borgonzi of Cremona. I,
Yes.
how long have you clutched that instrument to your presence? And how long, in other words, how long have you had that instrument? Because you and the instrument are one, and it's a huge sound that comes out of that fiddle.
It's not for very long. I think it's maybe a little bit more than 10 years, maybe. um,
Is it the
and
one? Is it the instrument?
I think so. Yes,
It
because
sounds it.
I had another also Italian instrument which I brought with me from Russia, and because it was instrument, um, my parents, my father uh, had to sell all his library. He liked books very much, and all his life he was buying, and he had kind of 5,000 maybe. And in Soviet Union you could not buy something because everyone is just living on very yeah meager. So he sold everything, and he bought Italian violin for me. But this instrument was not not my cup of tea, and I was always trying to adjust myself to it. And that also reason why I didn't try to change it for so many years. But then some 10, 12 years ago, I went with Emmanuel, we went to New York. He was working, and I just decided I will look, maybe I will find something else. And actually, this violin found me, not other way now, around. And then I really feel very, very close to this instrument.
And it's no joke to say the instrument found you,
Yes.
because as one of the big takeaway impressions I have of this incredible CD is, as I said, the huge sound. And what I mean by that is not only your own playing, which is incredible. I presume, can we do a little nod to David Oistrakh for this kind of, this kind of playing, of which you are a spokesperson these days. Yeah, that style of Oistrakh, but also just the instrument. And by the way, the recording technician. I mean, just the technique of recording the instrument is superb.
Yeah.
But that violin of yours, I have little notes here. Incredible, rich, full-throated sound, captured beautifully by the sound engineer. Stunning clarity is what that instrument has. It speaks.
I will tell him. He will be very happy
Oh,
to
good.
hear.
Okay. And also, to make sure everyone is clear that the other half, the CD is all B minor, which I find very interesting.
Yes,
I'm always
that's why I choose that partita
and
because it's also B minor. Yes.
because otherwise, now that I just think about it right off the top of my head here, because I'm always intrigued by that, the choices, and also how important key areas are. But you chose two works, two B minor works. They couldn't be more different, more diverse, of course.
Yes.
And yet there is that tonality, that B minor
Yes.
something that anchors
Yes.
both of them together. So I'm so glad you did that. Otherwise, you might have spoiled something. You know what I'm saying? If there was a D
Yeah.
major sonata or
Yes.
something.
Yes.
So beautiful, beautiful. By the way, all of this, our video interview, links to buy the CD, your bio, all of that good stuff is going to go up at performingartsreview.net in the next couple of days, and then I will follow with a review of the CD. And it's hard to keep the adjectives under control. I have not heard such incredible playing in a very, very long time. I salute you again for expert playing, huge, glorious, gorgeous sound, tackling that incredible piece flawlessly, the Liszt, may I say? I don't know, maybe you know of a couple of moments that didn't quite come off so well, but as far as I'm concerned, it is a stunning virtuoso CD. I just wanted to mention the Bach partita, the B minor partita that's on the CD, and I asked you a little earlier, I wondered if you had, because again, the sound is so big and rich and gorgeous, and also in that kind of Russian style. I hope I'm not in trouble there. It's almost a cliche, this Russian style of playing, but it's there, right? Or am I all wet?
It how it was, yes,
Yeah.
of course. Russian school.
Russian
It
school.
goes back to our Leopold Auer and all his students, and that's of course.
And it is about creating a big sound.
Yes,
rich.
It's some special bow technique which they were producing and teaching.
And I know that you use Baroque bow now to play Bach, and I want you to repeat for me what you spoke a little bit about the difference in the two bows. But you did use the modern bow for the Bach partita on this recording, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now tell me what was that thing about you mentioned off camera, I think, about this about discovering and using Baroque bow more authentically now for this performance period music, which is exactly right.
Yeah. Because this repertoire, which I'm working for so long already, and I think it's not really intentionally, but you are trying new ways, and I found that I must try Baroque bow because it was kind of bow which Bach was used to, for his for all his music, and there only that kind of bow, and I found that it's much easier to use for bringing out voices, for playing chords, for doing that kind of hidden polyphony, because one voice could sound heavier and deeper, and another one lighter. So it's immediately gives you right scale for that music, and I was so happy
So,
to.
so did you have an aha moment where you went, aha?
Yes, 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 absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
amazing. And by the way,
But
you mentioned it, and I'm realizing, although I have my own, remember, I'm a critic now and again, and I had my own moment where I spoke, but it was 30 or more years ago, with regret about a performance that was Baroque program, and no one was using a Baroque bow. But you mentioned that it's reasonably recent, this idea that violin fiddle players these days need to, have both a modern bow and a Baroque bow. Yeah.
uh, I I would say that in the groups of and all groups in Europe, they have a lot of groups playing all music, baroque groups. They always not only bow, they are using also um, different strings and also instruments. Another thing I'm of course using, it's much more closer to the way they played. I'm not using any pad. I'm playing without uh, which is also absolutely it was not known in Bach
Yes.
times, even not chin rest.
And when you decided you were going to do that, did you go through an agony of pain?
Yeah, it took yes, but sound it's much better,
Why?
and I
Because
was
it goes more directly to the brain. Did it sound better to you, or or just out there?
because this thing is between you and instrument. It's like foreign body, and it's not exactly. You feel much. Uh, it's stiff. It makes you stiff. It's not then instrument is not really part of your body, but it takes a lot of time to get accustomed to it, and that I also did because I felt that it's much better for the sound.
And I presume you're working with an instrument 1776, a classic period instrument.
Yes.
You're using on the recording. You don't use gut strings, right? You use metal strings. Yeah.
No, no. But there is something in between. It's gut strings, but they are aluminum. No, I'm not using.
Interesting.
But gut strings are very difficult to tune. They're yes, it's maybe I will do it later. I don't know.
But I think you have the perfect compromise. A classic period violin, presumably, if I understand you right, there are strings that are some kind of compromise, gut
Yeah,
and aluminum
it's
kind of combine, and then you use, depending on the repertoire, your regular bow or your Baroque bow. You're home free. Sounds good to
yes,
me.
yes, yes.
We're at the just about the end of our time. I'm going to run down the details once more for everyone out there. As you know, many of my people that watch me are professional musicians, ensembles, college music faculty, and I want everyone, please pay attention. Because I say this so much, I've had such a great experience hearing so much incredible music on CD by so many great artists. So it is such a pleasure
Uh,
to meet you,
very-
Vera, and to know the musician behind this incredible music making. We are speaking with Vera Vaidman about her 2015 Romeo Records release. It's let's call it a world premiere, because I've never heard it before. Noam Sivan's solo violin transcription of Liszt's Piano Sonata in B minor. Violinists, you have to hear this. You're going to want to program it. That is, if you survive putting it together. Vera has managed somehow to survive this experience, and fabulous virtuoso performance, and also a performance of the Bach B minor partita for solo violin. So a CD that's in that tonal area, that B minor area. It's so fascinating and so full of deepness. I don't know what else to say. Uh, Vera, what have I forgotten to ask you? We want to also remember that you are lucky to have a pianist husband, Emmanuel Krasovsky.
Yeah, I think there is, of course, some connection to my, idea to play Liszt sonata because of
Ah,
my
I see.
not only, he's also He's a very well-known pedagogue and professor, and he is the artistic director of Tel Hai piano master classes. So it's for young pianists. And of course, I'm always there. So I'm always surrounded by pianists.
Well, I would say you got even on this one.
Yeah, but also, when I was young, before coming to Israel, um, my record library was mostly with piano music, much less violin music. I liked very much always
So you went
piano music.
hunting for a pianist husband. I see. I'm onto this. Besides, it's convenient for a violinist to have a pianist husband. It works very well. The fees are much lower.
And we actually performed um, almost all repertoire for violin and piano, all Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, all standard and some not really standard repertoire. Now we are working on Amy Beach Sonata. So it's
And how wonderful it is to finally be allowed the public to understand these, to experience these great composers. Amy Beach, in
yeah,
obscurity until recently, and now we
yeah.
realize what, and so many others. Vera, many, many thanks for giving me some time. I know it's late in the evening in Tel Aviv. Thanks much, and I'll put this up in the next couple of days, and we'll follow with the review. As I said, it's hard to figure out how I'm going to eliminate adjectives, but I'll work at it. See you.
Thank you very,
Thanks
very
much.
much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.